Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru and welcome to another pickups video, or rather an arrival video. Yes, I have received another package in the mail and it is from my buddy Zagnorch, who, as I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos, goes out game hunting frequently and is sometimes out on the look for stuff for me. And so big thank you to Zagnorch for scoring this stuff for me and just for, in general, looking, because he's in an area that I don't have access to because I don't live in that part of the country, and so there's stuff there that he'll find that I just won't be able to stumble across where I live. So again, many thanks. So let's take a look at what I got today. I'll start with a few odds and ends that he found, some interesting stuff that he picked up. And first we'll look at this is some Nintendo DS system wraps that are all Super Mario themed. Pretty interesting stuff. Says for Nintendo DS or GBASP system wraps. So I could utilize those for either an early DS model or a Game Boy Advance SP if I wanted to do that. I probably won't, but it's a neat item to have. It does have the official Nintendo seal on it, although it is not an official Nintendo product, I believe. It says it's distributed by Bensison, Deutsch & Associates. So anyway, kind of a cool item, neat to have. Next, we have a couple of PSP related items. This one I found particularly interesting. It is this Game Doctor Accelerator Portal Lock for Sony PSP. And looks like you can actually use this to lock up your PSP so that you can keep it on you. I have my PSP 3000 here, and I'll pull that out. So my assumption is that you would actually put this this loop portion of the lock through this spot in the corner here where there's a hole. And so you would actually affix it to that and then presumably lock that loop around something else that is a little bit more permanent or affixed. And then you've got your PSP locked up and nobody's able to steal it. So if you're in a densely populated area, or you just want to have it in your luggage, maybe that you can kind of tie it down so that if they want your PSP, they absolutely have to steal your suitcase or your bag, kind of a thing. That's more interesting. So anyway, kind of a neat item. Fun to find something like that in the wild. And then there's also this silicone protective sleeve. Kind of neat. I think it's meant for a PSP 1000 model, because if you look at the button layout, it's slightly different on the bottom. Of course, I've got a 2000 and a 3000. The home button on the 3000 is rounded, whereas on here and on the 2000, it's more of that sort of half moon kind of shape. The holes down at the bottom for the speakers are that way, I believe, on the PSP 1000, whereas on the 2000 and 3000 that I have one of each, the speaker openings are up at the top. So again, I think this is probably for the 1000, but it does fit around both my 2000 and my 3000, and it feels good. It's got some nice little nubs here for grippiness on the back, so when you're actually playing it, you've got that little bit of grip factor. And it does work with my extended battery, which I unfortunately don't have a silver cover for on this. But the one thing I'm not 100% sure of is how in this little spot here, how that analog nub on the PSP is going to feel. It felt okay when I was messing with it for a couple seconds, but there's really no telling how it will be for long-term play. But kind of a neat item. something that you probably don't see every day, and something that was kind of a nice find. So cool to have that. Moving into some something that's not a game-specific item, or at least not a peripheral, I should say, or accessory, and that is this Space Invaders mini alien vinyl figure. Looks like it's officially licensed. It says it's official Taito licensed product. Excuse me. And you can see that it's the alien figure there. It's got the artwork on the back, logo on the top, and it's kind of cool. It was a Loot Crate exclusive, apparently, that someone got in their Loot Crate. Must not have been of interest to them, so they sold it or donated it to the place that he picked it up. But it's pretty neat. It's this vinyl figurine. It's slightly pliable, so it's not brittle. That's nice. And as you can see, it kind of has that gradient effect where it's a bright orange at the top and then kind of loses its color as it goes down to the base. And I'm assuming that's to simulate the later colorized versions of Space Invaders, that I think the enemies change colors as they get down further along the play field, or further down in just the columns. But anyway, pretty cool. If I ever reach the point where I can have a dedicated game room or man cave or what have you, that is something that that's something that I will definitely want to have out and on a shelf or on a side table or something like that. A cool thing, and glad to have that. And then he also picked up this Game Boy Advance case, which is for an original Game Boy Advance. I don't have one of those yet, but I do plan on getting one at some point. But let's take a look at the goodies that are inside. So inside, there are several things of worth noting. First of all, he picked up some manuals for me, and so I got 4-in-1 Fun Pack Volume 2. I've done the review of Volume 1, and I'll have a link below to my blog that you can go check that out. And but I have Volume 2. I did not yet have the manual, so great to have that. And then some Game Boy Advance manuals for Cars, for Kim Possible, and this manual is actually, pardon the pun, Kim Possibly thick. It's actually quite a thick manual. I think probably because there are multiple languages. Yeah, it looks like at least 3 languages in here. But anyway, good to have that. And then Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed Game Boy Advance manual. So add to my ever-growing collection of game manuals. And then there are also some games inside. Some Game Boy Advance games, some Game Boy Color games, and a couple of fun and interesting little items here. A couple of PSP games that are the little cardboard sleeve kind that I believe were either promo items or special kind of a thing. So this is PSP UMD Lords of Dogtown, which I've never seen this movie, so I don't really know much about it. And then there's also a greatest hits version of ATV Off-Road Fury Blazing Trails. And pretty sure I've got the larger full case and manual UMD version of this. I don't think I've got an original Black Label release, but still a cool item to have because of the uniqueness of the paper sleeve and the fact that it's the full game in here, just minus the manual or the rest of the case. So I'll be looking for more of these as time goes on, more of these sort of paper sleeve PSP games. So if you guys find any of these in the wild and you don't want them, let me know. I may make you a deal. Got some Game Boy Advance stuff here. We got a SpongeBob SquarePants Volume 1 Game Boy Advance video. And for those of you who are unaware, These only play on the Game Boy Advance and Advance SP. They will not play in a GameCube player for some reason. I don't remember exactly why that is, whether that was a licensing thing or if that was by design so that you couldn't just buy these and then take them home and play them on your TV. Presumably because the resolution of the video on here is meant for that small screen, so it's probably not going to look very good on the big TV. That may have been a factor as well. But got a couple of these. They're kind of fun to have. Then I also got this. He also gave me the SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge game, along with Naruto Ninja Council. Have never got into the Naruto series, but why not? And Disney's Atlantis, the Lost Empire. And I've never seen the Atlantis movie, so I don't really know anything about it. Some Game Boy and Game Boy Color stuff here as well. We got Gex, Enter the Gecko. That's cool to have. Hoping that it is... I've not seen screenshots. It's been out for a long time. I'm hoping it's a 2D platformer like the original Gex game because I liked that. I've got that for the Saturn, and so hoping that follows suit from the original. Miss Pac-Man Special Color Edition. Very glad to have that. Love Miss Pac-Man. One of my favorite early arcade games. Along with Galaga, probably my favorite straight up arcade cabinet from my childhood. It's kind of a toss up between those two. And if I ever have a dedicated games room and I get the chance to buy one of those Namco cabinets that has multiple games in it, and I can get one that has Ms. Pac-Man and Galaga in it, I'm set. That would be totally awesome. And then in the handy plastic case, you can see a yellow cart. Is it Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong Land? 1, 2, or 3? It's not, because I already have those. It is Pokemon Special Pikachu Edition. So now I officially own my very first Pokemon game. I never got into Pokemon. The first game came out after I had already got married. So at that point, with all the craze of Pokemon and the cards and everything, I probably figured I was too old. And this Pokemon fever just never swept me. But with all the hype surrounding Sun and Moon just coming out for the 3DS and the talk of a Pokemon Stars possibly for the Switch, and the fact that since I'm covering every Game Boy game legally licensed in North America, I'm going to have to play these at some point. And I've been holding off buying Pokemon games because even though they sold millions and they're everywhere, people are still charging $30 and $40 for Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. So Zag found this for dirt cheap, gave me a great deal on it. Many thanks to him for doing that. And so I'm looking forward to eventually putting some time into the Pokemon games so I can see if I can figure out for myself what all the fuss is about. So glad to have that. Now we'll move on to one additional game that I'll highlight, and that's Crazy Taxi. I believe I've got the greatest hits version of this for the PS2. I don't yet have this game for the Dreamcast. For the Dreamcast yet, but cool to have. I've never played it in the arcade. I think, if I remember correctly, I played it on Dreamcast at someone's house at one point for just a couple of minutes when we were kind of passing the controller around. But it looks like a fun game. It's well regarded, so I'll definitely check that out and put some time into it at some juncture. Now for the real meat and potatoes of the video, and what I was most excited about is all the PSP stuff. Zag is always on the lookout for PSP games for me, and so first we'll go through a few PSP videos, movies. We've got The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Not a big horror film fan, but I've heard that one's good, so why not? The Grudge, and again, not a big horror guy, but I've seen this, and it's got Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'm a big fan of hers, so I don't have it in any other format, decided to go for it. Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I do like this film. I don't have it yet in another format, so again, decided to go for that. And Rock and Roll High School with the Ramones. And as big a rock and roll, hard rock, heavy metal, punk, etc. fan as I am, I've never seen this movie. I never saw it anywhere to rent back when renting movies was a thing, and it's never been on Netflix or any of the other services I watch, at least not that I know of. And I've never known anyone who owned a copy, or no one at least told me that they had a copy. So now I finally have this and I can watch it. It's a classic, and hopefully that'll be a fun one. And now on to the games. I've got a stack of sports games that kind of pad the collection a little bit and get me that much closer to a full set. So we've got FIFA Soccer 08. We have Madden 06. We've got Madden 11. And I believe that brings my total now to either 3 or 4 Madden games for the PSP. I'm not sure. Assuming that they were released from 06 through 11, that means I probably have all but one. I don't know if there was a Madden 12 or not, since the Vita was out by that point. MLB The Show 09, and I've got another MLB The Show game. I think it's 08 maybe. Fight Night Round 3. That'll complement the Fight Night game I've got for PS2. The cleverly titled NBA. Not sure how that, why this is quite so vanilla of a name as NBA, but it's not, 2K or anything like that. It's 989 Sports, and so that's what they named it. And then we've got Gretzky NHL 06, and judging by the screenshots on the back, it looks like they're all sort of, it doesn't look like gameplay footage type screens, so we'll see how closely that plays to some of the older games like NHL 94, 95, 96, or if it's totally different. And now for all the other games. Technically this is a sports game, but it's kind of its own thing, so I don't really count it as much. Fantasy Golf Pangaea, or Pangaea, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, but finally have a copy of that in the old collection. G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra, and this is kind of cool because it has this little insert in there that shows different G.I. Joe figures that you can get that are movie related. The actual Baroness at least bears some resemblance to the actress who played her. And then on the flip side, some additional G.I. Joe items that you can get. And I actually own this box set that has the entire original G.I. Joe series done by Sunbow and that box set. And so I've got that, and then I've got the G.I. Joe movie on DVD that completes that first saga. I don't yet have the DVD set for the later DIC series that sort of expanded upon the G.I. Joe universe with the, I believe, Series 2 figure set, added new characters and stuff. I still have DJ, It was like a communications officer, that figure, somewhere in my house. I think I'm missing like the antenna that clips onto the side of the helmet or whatever, but I still have the gun and the big blue backpack that's sort of the communications array. Always loved that. And so, G.I. Joe. Not a great movie, but not completely terrible otherwise. Hopefully the game is decent. Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter Greatest Hits version, or Ghost Recon 2, I should say. I've got the standard version, so now this gives me both of those. The Simpsons game. Not really a Simpsons fan, but since I'm going for a full set, gotta have it. And Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. I've got this on, I believe, the Xbox. So it'll be interesting to compare the two versions and see how they differ and whether you've got a complete experience here or whether this is more stripped down, in terms of less stuff to do in the game besides just the graphical downgrade. We also have Greatest Hits version of Disney Pixar Cars. We've got Greatest Hits version of Ape Escape on the Loose. So now I believe I've got both versions of that. Lumine's Puzzle Fusion, which I was surprised that I didn't have yet. Tony Hawk Underground 2 Remix. And I think the games started to kind of get a little rote and ridiculous by this point, from what I understand. But again, full set. Transformers the Game Greatest Hits, and I believe I've got the standard version of this as well. And the very first Pursuit Force game. I have the second one, but I didn't have the first one yet because the copies I found out in the wild were either all missing the manual or were really beat up. So nice to have one that's in pretty good shape. Well, that's all the PSP games and all the games that I have, but I do have a couple more items to show you here that he scored for me that kind of tie into the last package that he sent, because he sent me Final Fantasy X, and then later I found X2 out in the wild at a pawn shop. So he actually found and included this time guides for Final Fantasy X and X2. Very cool to have these official strategy guides from Brady Games, and so very nice to have those. Not a huge RPG guy, but I've played through a few. I'm working on Xenoblade Chronicles X right now, actually, and now that I have these and I've heard good things about them, I do want to go through and play these at some point and get through them, because I've heard that the story is good, even if the the action or what have you is less the focus and more of the story. But anyway, cool to have those, and fun to have a couple of additional guides. The only other guide that I have is the hardbound Bayonetta 2 book that has all the stuff about Bayonetta 2, and that's a cool piece to have, because it sort of doubles as an art book. It's not just a strategy guide, but it kind of doubles as an art book. But nice to have these as well. Well, that's all I have to show you today. Thank you for watching. Again, thank you for all the comments and everything I receive on my videos, and I'll try to watch for those and reply and like and all of that stuff when I get a chance. Keep watching or keep checking my channel and stuff. I've got a couple things coming up. I'm going to be doing starting a new series of videos where I'll be reading my full text reviews and then having gameplay footage to go with that. So if you don't want to sit and read through the review or what have you, you can at least hear my thoughts on specific Game Boy games. And I'll be doing those as I go along, starting with the very first game I reviewed, which was Donkey Kong for Game Boy. And I'll be recording those up through my most current game. And then hopefully, if I can time it right, I'll be beginning to do the written review, and then do the video about the same time, so I can release them at the same time, have the video linked within the review and embedded there, and then have the review linked at the bottom of the video so that you can do either or and get the full experience. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.